On a seemingly standard day in Melbourne, July 8, 1882, in a small house, an artist was born. The composer, arranger, and pianist Percy Grainger met the world as a humble man, but became lionized both during his life and after his death. Despite familial troubles, young Percy had a largely comfortable upbringing. Both his parents recognized their offspring's potential and were quick to nurture it. Leaving his birthplace at age 13 to study in the Frankfurt-based Hoch Music Conservatory and later moving to London becoming an established concert pianist, Grainger became quite popular due in equal measures to his talent and his good looks and charm. As his popularity increased, Percy met many prominent musical figures and formed friendships with the likes of Frederick Delius and Edvard Grieg. These friendships proved to have great influence on Grainger and encouraged his already existing interests in English and Nordic folk music. In 1914, Grainger moved to the United States and served a brief stint as a saxophonist in the U.S. Army during World War I. Becoming increasingly popular across the world for both his folk-inspired compositions and piano performances, Grainger toured often until his mother's suicide in 1922, which marked his shift into music education. Grainger taught at NYU for a few years, but left due to his dislike of the formality and unreceptiveness he felt was held by the university. In 1945, Grainger decided to create his rankings for composers, and out of 40 composers, ranked himself 9th. However, this feeling of confidence began to fade over time as Grainger reached his later years. In Grainger's later years, he continued to give concerts, but instead of writing new music, he chose to revise his previous works. He felt that his career was a failure, and with rapidly failing health, Grainger continued to attempt to revise his compositions until, in White Plains Hospital on February 20, 1961, he died at the age of 78. Although Grainger felt little self-worth, he left behind a legacy of compositions and performances that have and will be performed and remembered through the generations. Grainger's music has a unique style which can be divided into two categories: original music and folk arrangements. Although classically trained, Grainger felt disdain for German and contemporary Western music and strove to distance himself as much as possible from these forms. He even went so far as to eschew the conventional Italian musical notation such as forte, and instead chose to implement terms such as Laudin. These terms became affectionately known as Graingerisms and are a defining trait of his music today. Grainger's original music is also rife with experimentation. Pieces such as the Song of Solomon and Train of Music, which is now playing, had many irregular rhythms and changing type signatures, pioneering techniques used by Stravinsky in his career. In addition to irregular rhythms, Grainger often utilized unconventional instruments such as banjos and ukuleles, often to great effect. Grainger's concerts were not only about the music, however, but also about the performance. Grainger had a reputation for being eccentric, which extended to his performances. Quite often, Grainger would pull the stunt of dressing in gym clothes, running into the auditorium, and leaping over the piano to make his entrance. Grainger's eccentricity also encompassed his music too, however. Grainger was often cited as a proponent of beatless music, similar in concept to contemporary jazz. Either fortunately or not, depending on your tastes, this music never took off and is often pushed to the wayside when describing Grainger's music. Although an advocate for free and experimental music, Grainger is most well known for his arrangements of folk music. Lincolnshire Posy and Country Gardens are some of his most well-known arrangements, with Country Gardens, which is now playing, being performed even by the Muppets. Another piece for which Grainger was recognized was Children's March, which played at the beginning of this video. In this piece, Grainger uses remarkable variety both in musical tone and rhythm to add spice to an otherwise repetitive piece. In contrast to the aforementioned pieces, Children's March was entirely original, but still drew from the folk background Grainger came to love with a hearty, joyful melody. In addition, Grainger's democratic scoring gave each instrument similar weight, creating a smooth, balanced, and blended performance. All in all, Percy Grainger was a remarkable pianist, composer, and arranger that left his mark on music from the past and it continues to affect music to come. Without his significant influence, British and Nordic folk music likely would have never seen the revitalization that it did.